Okay. Ooh, got it. Lovely. Okay, then we shall start. Okay, well, good evening, everyone. Hello, my name is Penny Wilby, and thank you so much for coming this evening to the launch of Nikki's new book, Through Autistic Eyes. Through Autistic Eyes is a collection of stories of later diagnosed autistic women, inspiring and positive accounts of women harnessing their autistic superpowers. But who is Nikki Collins? Well, first of all, I must tell you, Nikki is amazing. And she told me I had to tell you that. But I'm pretty sure that it won't come as a surprise to those who know her. Nikki was later diagnosed at 34, and her story is included in the book. She has a podcast, Autism Unmasked, and is the coach for newly diagnosed business owners who want to make the most of their autistic strengths. She's a mum to a teen, God bless her, has 6 guinea pigs, a whippet, and a cat. And when she's not writing books, coaching awesome women, or feeding animals, she has a love for cold water swimming, even in November. For those of you who haven't yet bought the book, you can do so by visiting her website, theautismcoach.co.uk. Now, we shall get, yes, this one, why we're here. We should now get stuck into the questions, and thank you to everybody who sent yours in. We'll try and get through as many as possible, but obviously we only have an hour, but I will do the best that I possibly can. So, Nikki, hello, welcome. Let's get stuck in. Question number 1, what made you want to write a book?
Well,
I'll let people
firstly, I would also like to say thank you everyone to coming. Because without you guys, it wouldn't have been possible. So what made me want to write a book? I was literally walking across a field one day, as you do, and a voice came into my head and it said to me, your success is in stories. And I thought, I wonder what that means. I wonder where that could go. And the result of that is this book. Ever since I was little, ever since I was young, I always wanted to write a book. Sorry, Penny, I've muted you. You can unmute yourself. It's just to mute the new people coming in.
Yeah, no problem.
and this is the result. So,
Nikki, can I stop you there for a second? I think you've got some Zoom bombers in this room. If you want to make me co-host, I'll permanently remove them for you.
Okay. Oh, I've never heard of such a thing.
Yeah.
What's a Zoom bomber?
People who try to ruin it for everybody else, like DJ Jeff.
Yeah.
There he is. Bye.
Okay.
Cheers, Sam.
Yeah. Wow, that's a new one on me. Every day is a school day. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, so that's why I decided to write a book. Plus, this topic is very close to my heart, and there needed to be more material on this topic from the people that actually live this experience, who are autistic. So that was my main reasoning behind it.
Excellent. And can you tell us about the other women featured in the book?
I most certainly can. There are 10, and I've just hit the cat on the head and he's run away. There are 10 women who are featured in the book. Myself, Claire Marie, Eleanor, Thora, Ali, Lynn, Kelly, Jade, Sam, and Nicola. And every single one of them has a powerful story to share. And it's just been a privilege to interview people and speak to each of these people and take our conversations and put them into the book that is now materialized. So personally, I'll go through a little bit of each story without going into all of the details, because you can find that out when you read the book. But myself, I left home at 16, and I didn't know that I'm autistic until I was 34. So it's quite a big chunk of your life not knowing.
Nobody cares.
Something so fundamental about yourself.
Let me just.
Thank
There
you.
we go.
So I divorced alcohol this year, and that was one of my biggest masks, and it was the most brilliant decision that I've ever made. I discovered it was a major mask. I discovered some of the reasons why I hid behind alcohol. I blocked out a lot of those reasons, and it all became really clear, and life has just got better and better and better for me. I lost a lot of myself over the years through alcohol and drug addiction, but eventually I found myself, and I am much, much, much stronger as a result of the challenges that I faced. Chapter 2 is Claire Marie, who has an amazing story about spiders. It does come with a trigger warning, and I'm not going to share it with you today because we don't have time for that, and you can read it in the book. But she was misdiagnosed, like a lot of autistic women, with so many different mental health conditions. And my favorite one, I say that in a sarcastic way rather than my favorite misdiagnosis, is mental health unknown. And that was actually put onto her medical records. They then went ahead and lost her medical records. So everything that she had ever gone through was lost, and she had to start again. So needless to say, she was not in a very good place when that happened. And it was unfair, really unfair. So it hasn't always been easy for Claire Marie. She was in an abusive relationship, and that relationship resulted in her ended up living in a Vauxhall Severa car with 2 children and a dog. And she was homeless for a period of time, and then she built her life back up, and she owned her house from a young age, and she's just smashed it. She's doing absolutely amazing. She loves to sing talk. She always knows when an appliance has gone on in the house. So if someone turns on the toaster and she's upstairs, she knows. And there is an echo of the kids saying, "Mum, it's just the toaster," going through the house. So these are her supersonic hearing powers. Then we've got Ellie, and she is a talented musician, songwriter. She's absolutely fabulous. And when she was younger, and probably even to this day, knowing Ellie, she had the nickname of Hyper Chicken because she's just hyper and a little bit flappy. Hyper Chicken. And it was an endearing term rather than anything that was negative. And she's so full of energy, and you'll hear more about Ellie because I'm going to read a little bit from her chapter because it's so powerful. I mean, all the stories in this book are so powerful, but I've only got an hour and I can't read them all. And I had to choose some. And I'm like, to my other half who's listened to this time and time and time and time and time and time again, what do I choose? Help me. So Eleanor's is one of those that you'll be hearing a little later on. Thora's the next chapter, and she wasn't actually expecting an autism diagnosis. It completely blindsided her. She had no idea she was on the spectrum. And she was another person who was given misdiagnosis after misdiagnosis, including borderline personality disorder, schizoid disorder, straight out schizophrenia, psychosis, and all other just anything that came in that book, they said that she had, and nothing ever truly fit. At one point, she was on 9 different medications, and she's another person in this book who had a breakdown. And in the run-up to the diagnosis, as I said, she was on 9 medications. She's done a lot of personal development. Again, this is another running theme through this book: self-development, personal development, and working on themselves. And one of Thora's top tips, every single chapter has got a top tip from the people that I've spoken to. And part of Thora's top tip was to trust yourself and to know your worth. The next chapter, Ali, she's another person. She had a breakdown. She actually had 3 breakdowns before her diagnosis in 2020, and she was only 23. 3 breakdowns by the age of 23. The autism diagnosis helped her to understand that she wasn't mentally ill. She was doing too much and she was in autistic burnout. Very different, very different. She's got a master's degree, but she'll eat the same breakfast every morning. She used to have Weetabix and she'd have them in a very specific way. And God forbid that you should put too much milk on and make them soggy. She can't eat them anymore because she's got a food intolerance and it aggravates it. So she's gone on to something else, but the world will collapse if she does not have her specific breakfast every single morning, which contains chocolate. It's okay, we'll let one slide. She's also a nature baby and she loves to be outside, but not for a particular reason. She's not the sort of person who thinks, I must go out for a walk. She just likes to be outside. She likes to experience being outside, being in nature, experience the outside world. And she also likes to walk the dogs that she's borrowed. So thumbs up for that. Lynn, I'm going to be reading a little bit of Lynn's story as well, because it's incredible. This woman is a master, an absolute master of stories. And what she's been through will make your jaw drop. Absolutely incredible. She was diagnosed at 54. She wasn't actually diagnosed. She kind of went through the paperwork, asked too many questions, and the psychiatrist said, you're asking so many questions, you're clearly autistic. We don't need to diagnose you. That's your diagnosis. Off you go. And Lynn is yet another person who had a mental breakdown. She had or a nervous breakdown, should I say, not a mental breakdown. She had PTSD, and the nature of that caused her to have a shutdown, and that was caused by past trauma and something flicking a switch and sending her into a spiral downwards. And as I say, I'll share a bit of Lynn's story because it's just incredible what that woman, well, wow, just wow. Then we got Kelly, anxiety, depression. Are we seeing a pattern emerging here at all? Anxiety, depression. Kelly she's a cycle breaker. And she worked on herself and she gave her kids the tools and the supports that she never had herself. She's even written a book for parents to help neurodivergent autistic parents, to help neurodivergent children. And Kelly talks a lot about acceptance and of herself and self-acceptance for others too. And there are a lot of value. There's a lot of value in the tips that she shares within her chapter. We all have challenges. We just need to work out how we can fill the gaps so that it makes our life easier. And I think that goes across the board anyway. That's not just autism, but obviously this is specific to autism, so I'll stick with that. Then we've got Jade, who was diagnosed at 25. She's totally dog mad. As soon as she could pick up a book, she carried a dog encyclopedia around with her, and that was her special interest. She now has a dog of her own, her support dog, and she's loving it. Now, Jade's mum actually conceived her by a sperm donor, and I don't mean that by the traditional, oh yeah, the sperm donor, the missing dad. I actually mean she went to a sperm bank and went through artificial insemination. And the sperm bank recently contacted Jade with news that she had a sister, and they connected them. And that sister actually turned into a brother and sister who are twins. And they're neurodivergent, they're autistic. So it's been interesting for Jade to see how similar her and her siblings are. Then we got Sam, the lovely Sam. Hi, Sam, who realised at about 35 that she is autistic, and she's actually gained her official labels this year. Go Sam. And she's another person who's gone really deep dive into self-development and personal development. She went on a total research rampage, like total. It's like, hats off to you. It's exactly what I've done. It's something that I've been doing for 15 years, and you're probably longer than me on that journey. Not sure, but we can talk about that on another epic conversation one day. But Sam's an incredible artist, and her literally biggest piece was an 8-foot dragon, which she sculpted out of expanded metal, called Alan. And who doesn't love a dragon? I'm getting a dragon tattoo 2 days after my birthday to cover up a really bad mistake that I should never have got tattooed in the first place. So yes, dragons. And Sam is one of 2 people in this book who also struggled in. Wow, look at that. There's Sam showing us her dragon, Alan. Amazing. I love Alan. But Sam, again, she had eating disorder when she was younger, which is quite common amongst autistic people. If it's not an eating disorder like anorexia or bulimia, it can be eating because we don't have that control when we don't realize we're hungry because of the sense of interoception. So it doesn't register that we're hungry or thirsty. And again, this is stuff that you can learn about in the book, because it's not just stories. It does give help and guidance as well. And Sam obviously recovered very well from anorexia, and it wasn't just anorexia, it was anorexia athletica, because she had to go one further, Sam. And that comes with a physical element. So for her, that was a grueling training routine, which included 1,000 sit-ups, 1,000 press-ups, 1,000 leg raises on each leg every single day. And that's a lot. But she got that control back, and she now runs her own business and is doing absolutely amazing and kicks people out of meetings. So yeah, thank you very much. And the final chapter is Nicola. And Nicola's story is a story that shows that no matter where or how you grow up, if you have a desire or an aptitude to learning, you can do whatever it is that you set your mind to. She, like everyone else in this book, she hasn't had it easy. No one has. But she went on to become an award-winning jewelry designer. She was published in books. Again, I say award-winning. She won loads of awards. And when she'd finished that section of her journey, she and her husband built a multi-million-pound cybersecurity business, won the Queen's Award for innovation, and she eventually went on to become the recipient of an MBE, which was presented by the now King Charles. So it just goes to show that no matter where you are, no matter how you are brought up, no matter your early childhood upbringing, you can achieve. Autism doesn't have to hold you back. It's other people's perceptions, not you. And actually, I'm not sure if Nicola's on here this evening, but I would also like to congratulate her, because she's just won another award and she's just acing it. So she's the sort of person that just keeps on going, doesn't stop, and then ends up lapping the people that are still going, how do I do this? So she might not always have the answers or the knowledge on how to do something, but she just keeps going. She's like the Duracell bunny. She's go on and on and on and on. So that is the people in this book.
Absolutely amazing. Thank you very much. I've got another question before you read an extract. So it was one that was sent in actually, but I like it. What unexpected things have you learned about yourself in the process of hearing the stories of others? And I thought that was quite a nice question to sort of follow on the synopsis of the ladies who are part of your group, your book.
Yeah, I mean, I think life itself is a learning journey. And when you get to have a conversation with so many people who are aligned to you, who have had similar challenges, it really kind of highlights some areas that maybe you've overlooked. It gives you another ability to delve into your own personal development. For me, personal development, self-development is a special interest of mine. It's been quite helpful. And it's shown me how badly people have been let down by the systems, and the systems are so broken. It's shown me that out there is resource upon resource upon resource that are written by neurotypicals who have no idea what it's like to live an autistic experience, because they're not autistic. All they kind of want to do is mold us into neurotypicals, and we aren't that, which is why there's like this high level of anxiety and depression, because it all gets misdiagnosed. I mean, just from the little bits that I explained from the chapters in the book, you can see that people are misdiagnosed all of the time, and they think that there's something wrong with them. There's nothing wrong with them. There's nothing wrong with us. And I think that it's really helped me to step into another level of confidence as well, by seeing that I'm not alone. And although that I felt like an outsider for the majority of my life, there are more of me.
Excellent. Brilliant. I mean, was there anything else that particularly stood out for you after you completed writing the book?
Oh, do you know, I think just people's willingness to share, to help others. Because I know for me that I've gone through a lot of experiences that I wouldn't wish on anybody. And I'm of the mindset that if I've experienced it, then it's best to share it with people once you've got to a state of healing, because there is a right way to share things and there is a toxic way to share things. So when you get to a point where you can actually use those traumas, you've healed from them as best you can, because it's still a journey and things come up from time to time. And so many people in this book are doing exactly the same thing. And that is how the book's actually come to be in the first place, because they've been willing to share and willing to open up and share their experiences. And I'm so proud of everyone who's done that.
Brilliant. Thank you. I understand you're going to be reading an extract now from the book, so I'll leave you to do that.
I will. I won't go into too much detail because we will be here all night, but I have chosen a couple of little sections. The first one is about Eleanor, and Eleanor was one of the people who was hospitalized before she realized that she was autistic. Now, she had an inkling that she was ADHD, didn't realize that she was autistic, and it started to become apparent. So I shall begin if you're sitting comfortably. So it hasn't always been easy for Eleanor to talk about herself. In fact, the realization there is a high possibility she had autism led to her having a miniature breakdown, and she was hospitalized for a couple of weeks. But this time gave her the opportunity to reevaluate everything. Whilst in hospital, Eleanor noticed that she was around people who had very similar symptoms to her. During her stay, she had to wear sunglasses all the time, as she couldn't look anyone in the eye. It was almost as though she'd experienced this extreme meltdown, because she had been masking her symptoms. She had been forcing herself into social situations and pushed herself to breaking point. Eye contact is something she finds difficult, but she had learned she needed to look a person in the eye when she was talking to them, as this shows you're interested and engaged in a conversation. However, this seemingly simple act caused her so much pain and difficulty that it led to her literally shutting down. And now she couldn't look anyone in the eye. She couldn't even look in the mirror, as even her own reflection was too much. After leaving the hospital, it was a slow road to recovery. It was like she had to completely rediscover who she truly was, and all the things she now realized she wasn't. It was such a strange yet amazing experience, because Eleanor realized that if she wasn't true to herself, then she wouldn't survive. That was in 2014. But Eleanor is still on a journey of self-discovery to this very day. So that's Ellie. And I'm going to read a tiny bit from Lynn's as well, who, as I say, is just the stories. If she ever wrote an autobiography, I'd be first there to read it, because the stories this woman has, it's just mind-blowing what she's been through, what she's done, and she just reels them off. It's just boom, 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 one after the other, and it's like, wow, really? So you'll see what I mean in a moment. I asked Lynn what a good day and a bad day was like, so the difference between the two, and this was her answer. Lynn feels like a good day, looks like anyone else's normal day. Things happen, and she is able to deal with them as they arise, which means she can be amazing in a crisis. If the world is falling to bits, she can be fantastic. And that's what she means about not being allowed to have a bad day. When things go horribly wrong, she has a switch that allows her to deal with it, and she'll fall to bits afterwards. In 1988, Lynn was involved in a nasty car accident. She was travelling in the back of a car with her seatbelt on when they had a head-on collision. By some miracle, Lynn was able to get out of the car and get everyone else involved organised. This was in the day before mobile phones or dress pockets. It doesn't say that in here. This was in the day before mobile phones. So she walked across the road to the garage and got them to dial 999 before walking back to the car. Working on autopilot now, Lynn made sure the girl who was travelling in the front seat had something to rest her head on and made her lay down, as she'd gone straight into shock. It was at this point that one of the ambulance crew asked if she was a witness to the accident. Lynn told them she was in the back seat, and that's when she was put into the back of an ambulance and taken to hospital. She had 10 broken ribs, a fractured sternum, a cracked pelvis, and 3 cracked vertebrae in her neck. To say Lynn is good in a crisis is an understatement. It also made me question whether her pain threshold was always that high, which she said it probably has been. Yeah. Wow, indeed.
I have no words for once. Yes, good in a crisis, yeah, just a little bit.
Exactly. It's insane. It really is absolutely incredible. So that one really jumped out. But Lynn's story is just peppered with stuff, and you're just like, every page you're like, oh my, what? Oh my God. It's incredible.
Amazing. God,
Yeah.
I've actually got some more questions.
Yeah.
If that's good. Now, I'm actually going to read one from Dr. Dakin. Priority, given that she's my sister. So, what advice would you give psychiatrists when they're working with those with mental health difficulties who are autistic?
In what capacity, Catherine? You can unmute yourself.
No.
Hello.
So I'm thinking, I'm an adolescent psychiatrist.
Mhm.
I have also worked in adult learning disability, where we also see a lot of people and assess and diagnose people for autism. So I'm really passionate about autism and ADHD and general neurodivergence, but I am a psychiatrist. So I'm looking at mental health,
Mhm.
and I have a lot of young people, especially the women, the girls, the young ladies who might not actually even come with a diagnosis of ASD, but I'm really suspecting it. But what they're coming to me for is anxiety, depression, psychosis, the sorts of things that's why they come to me. And I'm an inpatient psychiatrist, and the system's really quite unforgiving. It's not a nice environment. There's just coming into where we are. It must be destabilizing, sensory overload to the max. And we're not many of us are specially trained in ASD and working with and understanding people who are autistic. And so really, I'm just wondering if there's top tips on people who aren't specialists, who aren't autistic themselves, aren't specially trained in autism, just the way to make people who are autistic feel heard, safe, validated, because there's a communication complexity sort of overlays. It's just, if there was any top tips, because I'm always looking for ways to do better and to be better.
Yeah, I think clear communication and concise communication goes a long way, and actually stopping to listen rather than putting the dots between, oh, maybe they mean this. And as you say, autistic females in particular, and this can go for males and non-binary individuals too, are fantastic at camouflaging. So if you do not present autism as a stereotypical tick box autistic individual, regardless of gender, you're easy to be missed. So asking, I mean, I work with a occupational therapist who does like the pre-assessments for diagnosis, autism
Shout
diagnosis.
out to occupational therapists. It is International Occupational Therapy Week. Just I wanted to throw that in as well. If anybody knows it. There we are, just a celebratory moment to add there.
We will all celebrate Nick this week then. And she asked the questions that are so often missed. It's like you ask a question, you get the answer that you kind of expect, and then she'll dig a little bit deeper and she'll say, so how are you actually feeling on the inside? Where are you feeling that in your body? What's going on internally? And then you can go from thinking, all right, that's a tick, to, oh, hang on, there's something more going on here. And yeah, I liked the
that. Where are you feeling it in your body? I'm so going to use that, because one of my autistic young people, he tells me he's got a headache. He gets offered, the nurses offer paracetamol. He goes, no, it's a mental headache.
Yeah.
He asks for his ice pack instead. I mean, it's incredible, his own insights. You have to ask that question. Where are you feeling? Lovely. Writing it down. Yeah.
Yeah. And even things like, what was your intention behind that? Because things can be misconstrued. In what context? So it's these little add-ons. So think of a typical job interview. Obviously, that's not your line of work, but think of a typical job interview where you say, tell me something about yourself. And it's just, I don't know how to answer that. There's 1,000 ways I could answer that. But then if you say, in what context, they say, oh, professionally, oh, your hobbies, oh, in this, in that, then it gives you a more direct line, rather than going on and feeling like, oh my God, did I get it right? Did I get it wrong? Oh no, I'm now going to think about this for the next 20 years.
Brilliant. There's Gary has actually got his hand up, so I think you'd like to ask something.
Well, just an observation about the last conversation. My daughter was diagnosed at the age of 23, which she sought herself, by the way, and she'd already been to child psychiatrists for the previous 8 years, and none of them, and that's 3, saw her as autistic. They saw the depression, they saw the anxiety. But in hindsight, she was giving them signals all the time. I feel invisible. I don't know how to make friends. I hate the feeling of certain things. So the professionals have got to perhaps assume, particularly that a 15-year-old girl is on the spectrum, and then rule it out rather than just treat the symptoms.
Makes sense. And I find that if you are prescribed something like antidepressants, which have their place, so I'm not anti-medication at all, but if you're prescribed antidepressants and you are on them for years and years and years, and you are medication resistant, just maybe you're being treated for the wrong thing.
She actually sees it like I do, because I, as you know, Nikki, identified last year at the age of 65. And I see it as more of an awakening. I suddenly understand myself, but that comes with the wisdom of greater age and experience. When you're 14 or 15, you don't have that experience. You've got no context. You don't have conversations. and if they're going to be placed in front of professionals, the selection of that professional is absolutely crucial.
Exactly. Exactly.
But I would always assume that a child is autistic before they're told they're not. Anyway, that's my 4 pennies. Brilliant book, by the way.
Thank you.
Excellent. Oh, thank you very much. Should we just quickly pop on to the next question, and then we'll take some more Q&As from the audience, if that's okay. We've got here a little bit more about, I guess, the creation of the book. Describe, if you can, your writing process.
I absolutely can. It was all over the place at times, but there was structure and logic. So it was a combination of autistic structure, ADHD sabotage, but it worked somehow. The fundamental process was I jumped onto Zoom with individuals, I recorded the conversation, and then I transcribed the notes, so I had everything. I couldn't miss anything off. I then put it into something that was very easy to read. I always find a hard write, easy read is the best way around, and that's what I always aim for. And each chapter was then sent off to my copywriter and proofreader. She went through it with a fine-tooth comb. That then went over to the person that I was writing about, and then that went into the final copy once all the edits were done. And well, what I thought was the final copy, because then when you go through it again 20 million times to make sure that you got all the typos and all the things that you don't want in there, and make sure that there's nothing that could cause offense to anybody, it's a long process with many moving parts, and I've had some really amazing support and help through this process. It's not something I could have done on my own. So that's really the way that I've written it, and I've taken time out to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to do chapters. I've done it late at night. I've done it when I couldn't sleep. I've actually carved time out specifically in my diary to be able to do it. And of course, I've built a business around it at the same time. And it's just been interesting and home educated. So yeah, toddle.
Yeah. I am overwhelmed with your discipline. Unbelievable. So how long did it take you to write from when you sat down, maybe with the first idea, to where we are now?
2 years.
3 years?
2
years.
2 years.
2 years. Wow. So how did you get it published?
I self-published through my own publishing house that I had to set up, which is called Through the Nick of Time. So cool. I'm Nikki, Nick of Time. Actually, Sam came up with that one. So hats off to Sam. I'm not wearing a hat, but hats off. Thank you. And I had a lot of help from Nathan at Softwood Publishing, who's on the call today. And seriously, Nathan, you have been an absolute blessing. If I wasn't gay and if you wasn't married, I would marry you. I love you.
Oh, that's so. Tell me, where can people buy this book from if they haven't already?
Well, the book will be available on Amazon. I've had a couple of teething problems because Amazon haven't been playing ball. So that should be going live sometime next week on the ebook version and Amazon itself. But you can buy it directly through me on my website. I will pop the link into the chat now. There you go. Handy. Excellent. Had it copied on my board already.
Excellent.
One I made earlier.
Have you thought about Blue Peter? You could be a presenter.
Exactly. And all the books that come through my website, all those orders are signed as well. So any orders that come through, signed copies, and I'm all up to date with everything that's been purchased so far. So excellent. It'll be a quick delivery.
There was also a question that was asked earlier. I think this probably now's a good time. I'm really sorry, I can't remember who asked it. Might have been Louise. I know that the first book is only just out, but are you thinking of a second? Is there going to be a second book?
I don't know. Quite probably, because it's quite contagious when you start writing it. I'm not sure that I would do one in this style. I think it would be more about kind of the work that I've done and the coaching that I've done. So it makes it more attainable for people who don't have the money to purchase a program that costs more. And yeah, there will definitely be more. Just not sure what and how that looks like yet.
I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah. Have you thought about doing it as an audiobook?
Yes, I am going to be doing it as an audiobook.
Good. Because I like listening to books when I'm driving, and I don't often have the time to just sit down and read. But if I'm listening, I can do other things. So
yeah, that's what I do as well. I put it through the car stereo if on long drives, or if I'm washing up, it makes it less washing up like.
So somebody said, is there an easy read version?
iPhone,
I don't think that's their name.
Nathan, is there an easy read version? Have to unmute. No.
There we go. Well, first of all, congratulations. Yeah. The ebook hopefully will be on next week, hopefully Monday, I think, if we can push that through. Easy read. I have to say that the way that it's been formatted, I'd like to think that it is it's a nice font that is easy to read. So often the font size actually can be a bit of a problem as well. But I think actually what we've got here is a really, hopefully, an accessible version, whether it's paperback or ebook. But as you say, if you're looking at audiobook, doing something like that, that would be great, and that'll again add to accessibility. Yeah.
And for the comments that have just come in about being easy to listen to, it will be me narrating.
Excellent. Cool. Brilliant. Well, we've got some more. We've had lots of comments. I'm going to try and scroll back in and get them, but we've got about 10 minutes left, so we've got time for some more questions.
Okay.
So here's another one. Were there any surprises during the writing of the book?
Were there any surprises during the writing of the book? I'm surprised that I finished it, being ADHD. You know what? The biggest surprise was the amount of moving parts that are in a book. It is just mind-blowing. I spoke to, because my writing journey started by writing one chapter in a collaborative book where people wrote their chapters and sent it in, and they're all put together and compiled. And I thought, well, if I can write one chapter, I can write the whole book. And they also did like a package where you could spend several £1,000s and they'd do everything for you. They'd coach you, they'd do the proofreading, the editing, the formatting, all of the stuff. And I thought, that's a lot of money. And now I've come through the other side. I'm like, I can see that was very good value. I'm really glad that the way that I did it. But the amount of moving parts in it, I think, was the biggest surprise, because there's a lot to put in a book together. It's not a simple case of just carving time out and writing.
Yeah. Interesting. Another question sent in. Interested to know if this book could benefit men who may want to find out more.
Yes, absolutely. Autism is not gendered. It's just the research has typically been done on young white males. That's it. My next door neighbor has bought a book, and he came over the other day excited the next day and was saying how much he was learning about it, about autism, and how much he actually had no idea about it. So yes, absolutely. It's genderless. The stories are female stories, and those who identify as women, everyone is female in this book, but it's genderless. Everyone can learn from it.
Yeah, brilliant. What was your big why in choosing to write a collection of stories from late identified ND women?
Because there's nothing really like it. You've got individual stories, you've got bits and bobs here and there, you've got neurotypicals writing stuff about how we present, and it's often inaccurate. And I wanted a collection of stories that showed what we can achieve. We're not a deficit. We can achieve so much. And as Catherine's put in the comments there, it just goes to show that ADHD and autistic people can achieve anything. Someone without can never let ADHD hold you back. And it's true. And that's what I wanted to get over in this book, because there is so much deficit. There is so much lack. There is so much you can't do it. And my philosophy in life, when someone tells me that I can't do it, is to stick a certain finger up and then go and do it twice.
Excellent. So who do you hope this book will help?
The world. I think this has got a place for everyone. The person who wrote the introduction, Laurie Buckland, she was a secondary school English teacher, and she felt that she thought that autistic students were the naughty kids. And through working with me, she's learned so much, and she knows that that's an outdated belief. So this can help educators. This can help people who want to get a better understanding of themselves. This can help people who have autistic relatives and they want to learn more about them in a much more inspired way, rather than that awful negative narrative that plagues Dr. Google. So avoid Dr. Google. Get my book and we can educate the world between us and raise some knowledge. So yes, I hope that answers your question, Penny.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much. Well, if I can now open up questions to the floor, the virtual floor. If anybody's got any comments or any questions, they just raise their hand. You'll automatically be popped up to the top of my screen, and I'll be able to unmute you, or you can unmute yourself and ask the question. Okay, I was going to say there's a link there for Ali. Has anybody got any questions? I thought that was a hand. It's actually a cat's tail.
Cat's tail. My cat's beside me.
Catherine.
My question is about empathy, autism and empathy. And so I have been necessarily trained in the gold standard way of assessing autism, but obviously there's so much more to it than the standardized tests. Obviously there's the person who is more meaningful. But one thing that a lot of people I work with, and I keep saying especially females, because I do find I don't know if there's more masking going on, learning of social rules that women often pick up on more. It's literally just my observations of the people I work with, but a lot of them are saying there's increasing evidence that actually, or because we were taught that empathy isn't something that is easily demonstrated by people who are autistic, and I'm not autistic, so I don't know that to be true. Is this just a fallacy of the old school of research? I'm loving reading things in the different communities that I've joined to try and get lived experience understanding. But what's your word on this, Nikki, and anybody in the audience who wants to?
Well, I'm sure that you are aware of alexithymia, which is emotion blindness and not being able to connect with your emotions. In fact, I have something called my emotional support octopus, which is happy.
I bought my son one of those because he has alexithymia.
And the thing is, when you're not able to process emotions, sometimes there's a delay on that. So it's not that we lack empathy. It's sometimes we don't know what to do with what the information that's incoming. We just need time to process. Think of it like a big roast. There's Louise's emotional support octopus. Think of it like a roast dinner that has to digest, and then you can eat more, specifically Christmas dinner.
That's a good analogy. I'm now hungry.
Exactly. Yeah. Make sure those roast potatoes are right. That's the important.
That's actually very useful, because I try to talk to my colleagues to expand their minds about such matters. So that's
Yeah. What did you want to add, Sam?
I think it's also about our aversion to pain, emotional pain. So there's 3 different types of empathy, pretty much: the cognitive, the emotional, and the compassionate. So we can move very quickly through those stages, or choose to move directly to one of those stages to avoid the pain. So the cognitive, I can stand in your shoes, I can understand the pain that you've told me you're going through. Emotional, not only can I understand the pain you're going through, now I'm feeling the pain, now I'm getting upset. And then the compassionate, which is, not only can I stand in your shoes, I'm getting upset, I want to help you solve your problem, I'm there for you 100%, let's sort it out right now. But what I tend to do is I skip over the first 2 very, very quickly, because I want to sort it out, I want to take away your pain straight away. What I am not good at is sympathy, and it's sympathy that a lot of neurotypical people are seeking when they say they want empathy. They don't want you to just understand or sort it out. They want you to go, there, oh, that's really terrible, isn't it? Oh, I'm really sorry to hear that, which doesn't do anything. It doesn't solve any pain. It's as bad as small talk to me. And I'm very clear with my friends and people who know me: don't come to me if you want sympathy. Come to me if you want me to help you sort it out.
Yeah.
Okay. Gary, well, thank you, Sam, and thanks for the help before earlier. Gary, your hand's up, and then we'll pop over to Sherelle. You just need to unmute. That's it.
Sorry about that. It's not a question, it's encouragement for you, Nikki. You're on a rising wave. You've published your book. Now is, and I know you want to make a huge difference in the world. I'm going to challenge you to write your next book, not about your coaching. It's a little bit early for that. I want you to expand your chapter on you to an entire book about you and your story.
Whew.
That will position you so that you'll get invited for TED Talks, etc. Should you want to do that?
Challenge accepted.
You've got amazing energy and deep knowledge of being before diagnosis and after diagnosis. You're almost obliged to tell the world your full story. That's it. Now I'll be quiet now.
Okay, so there you go. You've got yourself a challenge.
There we go.
We've got time for one more question. So Sherelle, hi, for you.
Hello. The reason why I've joined this today actually is to learn more, and I'm the parent of a young autistic kid, so he's going into his teens now, and I want to know what advice you would give to a parent of an autistic child to help them understand more, because I've read multiple books, and I heard you earlier today, stay away from Dr. Google, and that is so true. There is so much negative stuff out there about autism, and I want to help my son, and I'd want some, I want to know what advice you would give to a parent in helping us to help them.
Mm-hmm. Are you autistic?
There's certain traits that I've definitely noticed. Yeah.
Okay. It usually runs in families.
Yeah.
Some people say, oh, you can't ask that. I'm like, the one thing that people say when they get diagnosed as being autistic later in life is, why didn't someone tell me?
Yeah. And there's things that my son does, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I do that. And there's things that you've said, like I need to read your book. Like, I haven't read it yet, but I'm going to. And there's things that you said in your book, and I'm like, I do that. I totally see that.
Yeah. I think learning about the sensory side of him, so his sensory profile, working out what his triggers are, working out like a safe space, and if he is, does he melt down and explode?
Yeah.
So when he's going into that space, less is more. If you can't give something that's constructive, so a solution, just don't put anything else in. If you think of that, just that one thing as as a bottle of fizzy pop, and every input is a shake of the bottle. So every no, every rejection, everything going outside of his plans, everything that goes wrong at school, everything that's said that doesn't align with him is a shake of the bottle. And him coming home and you simply saying, "Hi, son," is the last thing. And that lid off the bottle comes off, boom, he explodes. So it's having some routines that when he comes in from school, that you can that he can follow, so that he can decompress, and really just start to look at autistic resources. Stay away from the neurotypical ones. There are some neurotypicals who have got it right, but not a lot.
Yeah. There's a lot out there, and I was just really intrigued in this particular group, you know, to see your side of things and to hear about that.
Yeah, just sometimes just being there and having these conversations afterwards without judgment.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Brilliant. Well, it's just on 9 o'clock, so the hour is up. But Nikki, I would like to, you know, pass over the final words for you just before we go. I'd like to thank you all for coming along. It's been great. It's been great fun. Nikki, how would you like to end this?
I'm trying to find how to save the conversation, the chat. There we go. Right, done. Even that's changed since I've done it before. Well, I would like just to thank everyone who's here tonight. So thank you. And really, it's just, thank you for being here. Thank you for purchasing the book. Thank you for being a support. And thank you for sharing it, because I know you all will. And there will be more. I am going to take Gary's challenge up. I've changed my story dramatically over this year, because I was telling it in a way that was quite disempowering. But any good story goes on a bell curve. It starts with a hook to get you into it. It goes down and it draws you into the bad, and then it takes you back up and it leaves you on the high. And I'm not in that dip anymore. I am very much on the high, and that definitely needs to be portrayed.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Wow.
I can see the movie coming. Yes. Movie.
Nikki
Great
conquers the world with Gary and his boat and his kayak.
Amazing. Well,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you, everyone. And I will let Nikki press the button that says close. I feel that should be your your responsibility.
Thank you very much for being my lovely, wonderful host this evening, Penny. I really appreciate that.
A pleasure, absolute pleasure. Thank you for asking me.
Take care, everybody. And if you've got any questions, just ping them over to me on email.
Brilliant.
See you
Thank
later.
you.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.